Hi, this is Elizabeth Clare Brewington. I'm the host of Brightside Global Trade TV and online channel. And we are doing a fabulous series, which is with our authors. And we just heard from Sharon Lynn Fordham, and I'll make sure you have a link to her. We were talking about bullying, and she spoke from her book Billy the Bully, which was absolutely excellent. It's an award-winning book, and you must get it. And I will share with you where to get it from. And all the speakers today, we will have their books on our readers list at the Brightside Book Club. So make sure that you get these books. Our next speaker today is Tinku, and she's was from Nigeria and lives here now. And she is a she's a lawyer and a former prosecutor, and she's got a fantastic resume. But what we would like to highlight is her new book about immigrant children and parenting an immigrant child in America. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me look at my watch. So thank you all for having me here. My name is Tinuke Fawole, as Elizabeth said. And my book is called The Immigration Gap. And I'll show you real quickly. The Immigration Gap, bridging the divide between immigrant parents and their children. So when people think about immigrants, they think about the problems of immigrants, maybe lack of access, language barriers, even poverty, lack of medical care, and all of that. But what people don't know is that within the immigrant family, there's a lot of conflict that may even be more serious and more impactful than what happens outside. Because what you have is a situation where parents have come from wherever, maybe from Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Latin America, where immigrants come, and now they're in the United States or maybe in the United Kingdom. They come with their cultures and they still live out their cultures in their homes. But then the children born and raised in America are Americans. And sometimes the values and the cultures just collide. I'll just give a simple example. If you are from a Japanese household, they probably ask you to look down when you speak to your elders to show respect. But as soon as you go out in America, if someone is talking to you and you're looking down, that means you are guilty of something. That's just one example. And children just wonder, where am I? And I didn't really feel the impact of this situation until I started practicing in a very diverse county. And I was in juvenile court, and I was seeing a lot of immigrant families, and I was seeing the serious disconnects because children would tell me things and parents would tell me things. So this book will go into that. So I'll just go right into it so I don't waste time. So my book is divided into 3 parts. The first part is open dialogue between parents and children. So the first chapter is Dear Mama and Papa, where children share their pain, their struggles, of being immigrant children. And I actually have direct quotes from young people that have spoken to me or have written on social media and all of that. So I have that as the first chapter. The second chapter is their son and daughter, where parents also share where they are coming from. Many times as immigrant parents, we're asked to give what we don't have. So one of the things that upsets our children is, my parents don't tell me they love me. My parents don't hug me. These parents were not hugged as children. They were not told they were loved. They were not patted on the back for achievements, even great. So many times we're asked to give what we don't have. So I tried to explain, but then I definitely made it plain that the onus rests on the parents to work on this reconciliation, and we must be ready to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So part 2, I discussed the areas of conflict. So there's a chapter on, but I don't want to be a doctor, Dad. So we have this thing that we tend to force our children into careers that were prosperous where we immigrated from. But America has a lot of opportunities, and our children don't have to be doctors, engineers, or lawyers, which are the only options we give them. And many times they feel that we are not in tune with whatever else is going on with them. We're just hung on their academics. So a chapter is on conversation, drugs, social media, and other necessary conversation. Again, one of the complaints of our children is that we don't have open dialogue with them. It's a one-way street. We tell them what to do and we don't listen to them. There's no opportunity to have a dialogue. And so we talk about that, how we can improve communication with our children. There's a section on sex. because that's a taboo. That's something that we don't talk about at all as immigrants. But yet we have these expectations. We expect that our children will behave this way or that way, but we don't communicate that to them. So I actually start from age 2, how you discuss sex because it's not always about the activity. So discussions that can be had from age 2 to teenage, I discuss there. I discuss about our children's mental health, because we don't pay attention to that either. Like, I don't want to hear of anyone making you sad or hurting your feelings. Now, no big deal. Whereas they're actually going through emotions. So I try to see how we contribute to their emotional and mental imbalance and what we can do to support their emotional health. There's a section on identity, because as I was saying about bullying, apart from normal teenage or childhood bullying and different kinds of problems, immigrant children have other things that just kind of confuse them as far as their identity. They're in conflict. Am I Indian or am I American? And then sometimes their own country people will tell them, but you're not Nigerian enough. So it's like, where do I fall into? It's like I'm neither here nor there. Sometimes they get laughed at because of their names. Sometimes maybe they're, awkward clothing fashion. I could tell many stories of how I didn't dress my children in the appropriate way because I didn't know how it was supposed to be for that occasion, and different things like that. So they have added identity issues, and we need to know that. I talked about discipline. Many times we tend to use the same type of discipline methods that operated where we came from, maybe the way our parents did it, and we are doing the same thing. Just the other day, I saw an immigrant father and his son. And I just saw him, they came to my office, and he was asking maybe his son was doing something. This son was like 14 years old. And I just had the guy screaming, go and sit down, go and sit down, go and sit down. He was just screaming. And I was like, what did the boy do? And those are the kinds of things that we do. We just have these harsh disciplinary methods that our children are rebelling against because they see that it is in stark difference with how their friends are treated by their parents, and so they rebel against that. I have a chapter on faith, and I'm a Christian, so I come from that perspective. But honestly, I said there that many of the values of various religions are really the same, and the principle is just what I'm talking about. If you have faith that you want to pass on to your children, there's a way that you do it, regardless of what that is. There's a chapter about letting go of our adult children. That's another thing that we do as immigrants, like we hold on to that control. If you are the parent, you are forever the parent. Even if your child is 40 years old, you feel like you can still make decisions for them and things like that. And I try to encourage us on how we can release that. And part 3 is towards wholesome relationships. I talk about how not to have an entitled child. Some of us come from places where, we didn't have this and that. And some people really overindulge their children, and, invariably is hurting the children. And then I have a chapter on the irreplaceable role of fathers. And I say in there that fathers are not just to discipline and to train and to inflict punishment. Fathers are also needed for nurture. They're also needed to support their children emotionally. So they need to see their role differently. And their roles are also irreplaceable. So men need to fight for their children no matter what. And mothers need to allow fathers to be fathers, because I see situations where maybe there's a divorce or separation, and sometimes the children are not allowed to see the fathers. And I think that's a big mistake. And then the last chapter is about relationship, that your relationship with your partner, whether you're married or not, if you have children together, the relationship that you have with each other actually impacts your child. And I have a lot of examples to show for that. And the conclusion just kind of brings everything together. So that's the overview. I think I've gone beyond time. So if you have any questions.
What a book.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I had a small brief teaching encounter, and I would say, what are these parents doing to these children? So I think, oh my God, Sharon and both books are just fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel.
Okay.
Optimum, is that correct?
Optimum Families, yes,
right?
Optimum
Yes.
Families. Yeah, these are the kinds of things that I discussed there. So when I was seeing these problems in the juvenile court, and I would come home every day, and I was just so sad. Like, if this if this were not the situation, if we were not raising children in a different culture from where we were raised, though, we would not be having these problems. And I was so sad that, immigrants leave their countries to come to America, wherever they go, to be a blessing. It's like, is this turning to be a curse rather than a blessing? Because some people have that disconnect going on so much that the children rebel. Sometimes the children will say that they never want to talk to their parents anymore. Very serious things. Sometimes, children have taken their own lives because they were forced into professions that they didn't like. So there are very, very serious consequences to this. And so I kept talking about it, and I was so sad. And one day my husband asked me and said, so what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Yes. And then I started the YouTube channel, and I started having these discussions, and I was just amazed at the response, both from the young people, and that's where I got some of my quotes from, and the parents. The parents were saying, wow, my goodness, I wish you were here 20 years ago. Maybe I wouldn't have had the problems I had with my child. Oh my goodness, please write a book. So it had just been very well received. And so it was from that the book came.
Well, thank you for blessing us today and being on our Zoom. We really appreciate it. I'm definitely going to look you up on your channel. Get her book, guys. Get them into libraries and schools. And I will make sure that we have you back. So this is awesome. I enjoyed meeting with you and talking to you as well. Does anyone have any questions?
Could you put a link in the chat box to your YouTube channel? I would love to subscribe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'll put the link to my website where you can get the book, and also
absolutely.
So
good deal. I'll do that. I can't wait to read that.
I know. Anyone else wants a question? All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stop recording. So if you're watching us on Facebook, Instagram, on our online social media, all the million channels, not the million, the few channels that we're on, write us a comment. Take a picture if you purchased any of these books, and tell us what you think. And we'd love to hear from you, and definitely subscribe to our channel.